Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good whatever it may be. Welcome to Verbling. I'm teacher Oakley. And in this class, we're going to be talking about hesitation devices in English. All right. What does that mean? Well, we all do it. I just did it. Well, we all do it. We hesitate because we don't know exactly what we're going to say. Now, in English, the one thing English hates, the one thing counter to fluency, and that just doesn't work in English, is dead air. For example, that was dead air. Okay, Igor, I have talking to Igor, who's chatting me and having problems joining the class. Yeah, I have to tell you, of course, it's the holiday season in Verbling land. So I don't really know. Because I don't know how to help you with your glitch. I've also had a couple small problems, and I think they're a little bit delayed because of the holidays. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure. You might try to message them again. I don't know. I don't know how many times you already have. Okay, I got to get back to my topic. That was actually a good example. I totally procrastinated talking about my topic by talking about something else. That was a hesitation device, as a matter of fact. Okay, hesitation devices are used in English. We use them in order to keep our fluency and keep speaking. So we're going to talk about the different hesitation devices, bad and good, and then for the remainder of the class, after we talk about these things, we're going to practice. I'm going to try to ask you questions and ask you to attempt to use some of these different hesitation devices. Okay. Hello, Heidi. Again.
Hello, nice to see you again.
As always, nice to see you. And hello, Shell. Hi, Shell.
Hello.
Hello.
Working now?
Yes, it is. I can hear you.
Hey, Happy New Year!
Well, thank you. The kids are already running up and down my street, blowing horns, and firecrackers are already going off. It's only 11 in the morning, but you know how it is.
I know.
Yeah. So, in any case, Happy New Year to you, too. Okay. All right. We're going to take a look at these. What are different hesitation devices? Now, I also, another way I want to kind of explain these things is by thinking about standardized English speaking tests, because these are a very clear indicator of your speaking level. Actually, it pretty much matches exactly. As new language learners learn the English language, they tend to go through the same steps, not 100%, but they tend to go through the same steps of using hesitation devices in English. Starting with your very beginners who tend to use long pauses when they speak. It takes them a while to even start speaking. This is absolutely the worst. And for example, on an IELTS or a TOEFL exam, this is going to bring you about the lowest score you can get. You're pretty much guaranteed, because it's quite obvious that that in fact you don't know what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to show you a screen share here and go through these. Uh, Julio, welcome to the class. Hello. Long time no see. How are
Hello,
you?
teacher. Hello, class. I'm doing okay, thank you.
Great. Glad to hear it. Happy New Year to you.
But still, that's gonna be tomorrow, I guess. But thank
I
you.
know.
Merry
Preemptive.
Christmas to you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Belated Merry Christmas. When we say belated, a little bit late, like birthday, you say happy birthday to someone after their birthday. We commonly say belated. Belated Merry Christmas. All right. Belated Merry Christmas to you, too. Uh,
Okay. And
uh,
in advance, how do you say that?
yeah, that's good. Advance, you could, okay, a couple ways. You can say advance Happy New Year, or, well, I guess advance is better. Preemptive makes it sound more like a military strike. Preemptive Happy New Year. That does not sound right, I have to say. Um, okay. But anyway, advance Happy New Year. I think that's much more common. Okay. Uh, okay. All right. Look. All right. So getting back to these hesitation devices. Basically, you're hesitating to try to think about what you want to say. And some hesitation devices are okay, and some are just not acceptable. And generally, people go through levels. Long pauses, very beginners, shorter pauses, or pauses between sets of words like this. This is not good. It's not continuous speech. It's not fluent. That's what we call fluency. So if you're doing that, you have to figure out how to stop doing that. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. There is a way that you can stop yourself from having pauses in your speech, a very simple way. I'll get to that in a second. The normal thing where there's a way to jump from pauses up to these good things, and I'm going to discuss that in a minute. Just bear with me. Uh, the next thing that happens after pauses is normal for normal speakers, is they realize, they get the idea in English, it's not okay, it's not okay, it's not okay to have pauses, so they use repetition in order to keep the flow of speech going. So this is extremely common, and this would be upper beginner level where you start to hear this. When students start to use filler, basically that's when you're looking at students who've moved into an intermediate level. Instead of using repetition or pauses, they use self-correction often, or filler. Filler can be simple filler like I think that okay. Obviously, using too much of these expletive sounds it is not good. It interrupts the flow of speech. It's better than repetition, but it's still interrupts, and it kind of mangles up the fluency. There's other kinds of filler as well. Filler can also be, well, let's see. I think, okay, we can also use phrases, standard phrases, actual words or phrases. Well is a good example. Before we start speaking. All right, to give yourself a brief moment to think before you start to speak. So This is acceptable. So sometimes filler's okay, and you're going to start hearing this. This, and also I should actually add another bullet point here, which would be self-correction. Self-correction is also okay, and native speakers self-correct all the time. I would call this sometimes okay. For example, going back to looking at it through the lens of standardized tests, in things like IELTS, for example, self-correction could count against you if you self-correct for purposes of grammar. However, if you self-correct because of content, all right, that it's not what you wanted to say, and you change what you wanted to say, this is actually quite normal, and native speakers do it all the time. I do it all the time. As long as you're not doing it every sentence, then that's all right. And you're obviously doing it because you haven't completed your idea, so it is a type of hesitation device. So you haven't completed your linear thinking in order to speak. Okay, so this level, we're talking about now intermediate speech. Now, higher intermediate speech, I might start to hear this. And for those of you, which I don't think is actually anyone in my class here today, frankly, you guys are, I know you all have a higher degree of fluency, but I do have to say, for those watching, for those viewing, in case there are those with this problem, where they tend to only speak one word or two words at a time with gaps in between, instead of speaking in entire phrases like I am doing right now. If that's your problem, you're speaking one or two words at a time, because probably it is because you're translating in the English in your head and you're not thinking in English. One trick that you can do, which is acceptable, it is acceptable if you're not doing it every second all the time. But when you're speaking and you're having a bit of a hard time thinking about what you want to say next, you can stretch your vowels like I'm doing right now. Stretch them with slightly rising intonation, rising pitch, to stretch the sounds, so to join them into phrases. This is okay. In fact, this is quite normal. Consider a native speaker giving directions. Even you go to New York City and you ask which way to Times Square. You like to stretch consonants? Okay. Well, that's a little odd. And some consonants are really hard to stretch. It's hard to stretch a D or a T. What are you thinking? Okay, I can stretch ing, because some consonants are continuants and some are glottal stops, so you can't really stretch them without choking to death or breaking your own neck. So usually more normal to stretch vowels. In any case, back to my example, think of going to New York. Where's Times Square? You ask a New Yorker, he may say, well, you're going to go, let's see, 4 blocks straight down 5th Avenue. And then when you get to 32nd Street, you need to take a left. Okay, this kind of stretching sounds to continue speaking. First of all, you're indicating you're not done speaking. You're still joining your sounds to keep some kind of fluency. Of course, it's not perfectly natural and it's not ideal. However, it will suffice when you can't think about what you want to say. Again, a native speaker, when he's trying to imagine a map in his head, it's the same problem you have as a second language speaker when you're trying to remember the vocabulary. So you can use this method. And by the way, you can use this method to jump from pauses. You can bypass this repetition, filler, self-correction stage and go right to rising intonation. It takes some concentration and it takes practice. Also, of course, you're doing all these things because you're not thinking in English. You're thinking in your native language and you're translating, and it takes time, which is why you're hesitating. A couple of quick, maybe useful for you, maybe not useful for you. I want to pause here before I start looking at more of these good methods of hesitation, and I want to talk to you just for a moment. Haha, Mulham. Exactly. Hi, Mulham, by the way. Welcome to the class. Good question, and I want to answer that question, or attempt to. Translating. What do you mean, Julio?
I was joking.
Oh,
I can say like, okay, wait a minute,
sorry.
translating. Okay, here's my response.
Oh, like buffering. Actually, that's what I call that. When I hear that and I'm testing a student for IELTS or TOEFL, I'm doing an assessment test. That's what I call that, exactly. Oh, you know, obviously you're buffering. Like when they start repetition, or there's a long pause. Okay, clearly you're buffering. All right, they're trying to come up with the English. Moham, excellent question. Let me quickly say hello to Luis. Hi, Luis. Okay, I did. All right, how to start thinking in English so you can stop hesitating when you speak. Very good question. I don't have a magic bullet answer for you, but I have a couple suggestions which you might try. They may help you, they might not help you, frankly. I've suggested some of these to students before, and some of them help some students and don't others. So it's just advice, all right? First of all, very simple. Although it may not be practical if you're using English for work, like writing letters, at work you have time constraints, so it may be impractical. But if you're a student or if you have more time, you probably use an English to your native language dictionary. Start by using an English to English dictionary. Actually, believe it or not, this will help, because what you're doing is you're learning a word by looking in the dictionary and you're learning it in English. First off, the reality is you create neural pathways, right, in your hard drive, in your mental hard drive. It's absolutely true. You're trying to convince these synapses to fire instantly, and they're this far apart. Maybe you drink too much alcohol or you smoke weed, I don't know, but stop doing that and instead start using English dictionary, English to English, because if you first learn them with English meanings, that means the initial pathway in your brain is English to English. It's not, okay, English to native language back to English, which is what you're actually training your brain to do when you use an English to first language dictionary to learn vocabulary. If you think about it, that makes sense. Here's another suggestion. To start thinking in English, try doing this. All of us have sort of dead time when we're not, when we're not really actively using our brain. I mean, seriously, when you're taking a shower and brushing your teeth in the morning, you're probably not, well, maybe you are thinking about work, but when you're commuting to work, when you're walking your dog, start forcing yourself to use those times when you're not really intellectually challenged by other things to actually think in English. We all have internal dialogue. We talk to ourselves all the time. When you're walking your dog, oh, look at that old guy over there. My God, he looks like he's about to drop dead any second. I better hurry up. Come on, Snoopy, let's go. Let's go. Move your tail, Snoopy. Start thinking this internal dialogue in English as you're doing nothing things in your day, or cooking dinner or shopping. A good place to practice this is shopping in the supermarket because you've got all that vocabulary right in front of you. So try doing that. Luis, I'll get to your question in just a second. I see it there. Hang on a second.
Okay.
I'm on a roll. Julio actually has an excellent point. He's more fluent when he's drunk. Absolutely, that is absolutely true, because you start second guessing what you're thinking. That is absolutely true. I will be burned at the stake for this, but I have suggested to one or two IELTS students, you might want to have a beer before you go to your test. Seriously, because it lowers the inhibitions and you're not checking yourself and checking in your native language before you just say it. It's absolutely true. For those of us who drink alcohol, one or two drinks can make you more fluent. No joke. Now, 5 or 6 drinks is going to make you incomprehensible, even in your own language, so that's not going to help. That won't help you at all. Obviously not. As in everything, moderation. It's absolutely true because you start to lose your inhibitions. That's the idea of thinking in English, doing stupid things like shopping for food, trying to think in English. Okay, I need broccoli, I need lettuce, I need carrots. But yeah, drink a lot of alcohol and put a dictionary under your pillow at night. No, that's not what I'm saying. Not at all. Okay. Anyway, dictionary. Start actively forcing yourself to think in English during low mental, demand activity. Third suggestion, and this one may sound really stupid, but it's goofy and it's going to be embarrassing if you have friends come to your house. But especially for beginner level students, I actually did this to help myself learn Filipino language, Tagalog. Okay? This sounds stupid, but get yourself some Post-it notes, all right? And post it like everything you can see in your house. Door, stick it on the door. Wall, stick it on the wall. Light switch, stick it on the light switch. Air conditioner, stick it on the air conditioner. Shirt, stick it on your shirt. Pants, stick it on your pants. Everything. Refrigerator, even the food in your refrigerator. If everything is labeled with an English word, that's the first thing you're going to think of when you see it, and you can't stop seeing it because it's all over your house. This may sound ridiculous and it's going to look stupid. I realize that. I do know that. And it looks goofy. Looks really goofy. Stairs. Everything. But it really does help. It's amazing how fast you pick up basic vocabulary if you do that. Like in a week, you're going to increase your vocabulary for very practical nouns, at least, very quickly. It actually works quite well. Okay, interesting point. If you're thinking in English when you're dreaming, well, that's weird. Julio, good suggestion. Okay, excellent suggestion. Change your cell phone or computer language to English. Wow. That's a great suggestion. Great idea. And I forgot about that one. I've heard that before. your electronic devices if you change them to English. This will also force the issue. Of course, in another.
I've already done it, and even Farmville games.
Really? Oh, and games. Oh, God, there's a good one. All right.
I learned a lot of words of agriculture words.
Okay. All right. Right. Okay. Games. There's another one. Something that you might do just for fun. Okay. So you change it to English. Now, I do want to address a question Luis had. I don't want to forget about it. Luis, you were asking different accents when the natives speak fast. Oh gosh, that's a very, very difficult problem.
Yes,
It's
I
very,
know.
it's very difficult. Look, man. Okay, I can't sugarcoat it for you. It's gonna take just a lot of, listening. The problem with listening is that mostly there are no great things other than just practice, practice, practice. I mean, anybody in Luis's question is more directed toward listening than speaking, so we're a little bit off topic, but it's okay because we're talking about learning techniques here for a little bit. If anybody has a learning technique for detecting accents,
For example,
go ahead.
breaking news. Sometimes I read the breaking news. Then after that, we can listen to the accent, and American or Britain was reading the same article.
Ah. Okay, where do you find that information? I was going to suggest, BBC, Voice of America. They actually, if you type BBC Learn English and just search for it, they actually have a separate section for English learners, and I believe Voice of America does as well, where they will let you listen, and then you can do. I think they have comprehension questions, so it will help with learning, with listening comprehension as well. You can listen to it over and over again, and I think BBC even has a slow down, speed up function. One of them has a slow down, speed up function. I don't remember which one.
There's one program from BBC. It's called BBC 6 Minutes English. It's great. I have listened to 15 videos, audio file. It's great. Yeah, it's great.
Right. What's that again? Let me type that in for.
BBC 6 Minutes English. It has a transcript, and the information they provide are great. It has a set of vocabularies, like 5 or 10 vocabularies in each 6 minutes. They always introduce something new. Yeah, it's great. It has a great information, and the way they speak, they use different accent. Sometimes you'll hear Chinese, Russian, but not a Chinese accent. It's like Chinese British accent or Russian British accent. So it's not just Chinese accent.
Right.
So it's a mixture of accents. Or sometimes you can hear different accent from the British one. It's great, and the information is great.
That's super. Great resource. Heidi, thank you for posting that resource.
Teacher, I think that the news is not the best resource to improve your listening skills, because real people, they don't speak like news anchors. So
True.
I prefer, well, I've tried sitcoms, reality shows, and also 911 phone calls. Those are really interesting because you get to hear not only real expressions and real speaking, but in the 911 phone calls, you get to hear also when somebody's panicking or angry, and you get to hear the different tones that they use.
Oh, extreme intonation, extreme. expressive intonation. That's an interesting suggestion. Ooh, that's a good one. I like that. Wow. I wonder if I could incorporate that into a class. Wow, that's okay. Cool ideas, guys. Really. All right. I like those. Shell. Now, Shell is suggesting singing songs in English, but
Okay.
I have to tell you that can be not good. I mean, Shell, I have to tell you, I can sing entire songs in Tagalog, and I have no idea what I'm saying. I have no idea if I'm singing a dirty song or a love song, or I don't have a clue. But I know all the words and the intonations. The other thing that's tricky about songs, I have to warn you, is that songs it's like poetry. Okay, they can take liberties. They can take liberties with the word stress. They can take liberties with the grammar. Very frequently, English songs use completely wrong grammar, and of course, they're using word stress that matches the melody, not
Yes.
reality of English speaking. So I would be a little careful with songs. Another, of course, TED Talks is another one that's available that some people like to use. But okay, these are all very practical ways for listening. But of course, if your listening improves, you'll start to think in English as well. If you start hearing in English, you start thinking in English, and that will help speaking. So this is not irrelevant. This is very much also
I have
relevant.
one more material to share if you want.
Great,
Oakley
please
to.
bring it.
Yes.
It's this site, Inkvid. It usually contains short videos of a teacher who's like trying to explain a grammar rule or any different rules. And after you finish the video, there's like a set of questions, 10 questions that will test your understanding of the whole video. So it's great for to test your listening your listening understanding.
Great. Okay. Terrific. Well, there you
And
go,
and
Luis.
the last resource is Verblink. It's a great site. Many good teacher like Oakley.
Oh yeah. Stop it. Okay. Oh, stop. Okay. Yeah, those are great. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Really wonderful, great resources. Great. There you go, Louise. You're going to be busy for the next couple weeks.
Yes, I know.
Right. Okay. Terrific. Okay. Let's get back to our topic, which is hesitation devices. So, great. The biggest thing that will help hesitation devices is, in fact, learning to think in English. And okay, everything we've been talking about is headed toward that concept of thinking in English. Great suggestions, really, again. Now, what are good hesitation devices, practical hesitation devices that, in fact, native speakers use all the time? And, in fact, you can use in an IELTS or a TOEFL test, you can use when your boss corners you with a question that you don't know how to answer. Okay, when you're talking to your boss in the elevator, when you're in a job interview, when you're asked very tough questions and you have to think on your feet, you have to think as you go. These are places where quite practically in real life, we need to use hesitation devices to kind of, we want to give meaningful answers, and we don't want to, the last thing you want to do in a job interview is not be fluent. If you're talking like this, you are never going to get the job. Forget about it, because confidence is something you must have in a job interview. What can you do? All right. First, equivocating. What is equivocating? Open question to the class. Anybody know what that means?
Making a mistake?
No.
No.
Let me
So,
give you a clue. You know who equivocates? Politicians are masters of equivocation. Equivocation is the noun. To equivocate is the verb.
Sometimes made a mistake, but pretend not to have a mistake.
Well, they're masters at that too, Heidi. But yeah, true enough. Equivocating is when somebody talks and talks and talks and never actually gives their opinion. It doesn't really say anything. Pretty much what politicians do every day. So, example, my boss may ask me, okay, what is my opinion about the new project? Well, that's an interesting question, and I've been doing some research about the funding for the project, and there's some very interesting elements to that as well. We are conducting market studies, and there's some really interesting things going on in the market for this new product. I find that, for the most part, looking at it from a perspective of someone who doesn't really know that much about it, that I would have to say everything looks good. What in hell did I just say? Absolutely nothing. Yeah, being vague. Tell a lot, but actually saying nothing. That's pretty much it, Igor. You lost me. Yeah, well, that's the idea. When politicians talk to you, do you get lost sometimes? Well, yeah. Doctors do this sometimes too. You're fired. Right. Right. It's saying nothing. So, yes, beating around the bush, Shell. That's basically it. Equivocating is okay, but like anything else, too much of it, if you use too much rising intonation, it's going to sound ridiculous after a while. Too much equivocating, and obviously it gets annoying. You're beating around the bush, and your boss, for example, might get annoyed with you. Basically, equivocating a little bit to give yourself a little bit of time to think about an answer, like at a job interview. Things like, well, that's a very interesting question, and I've actually given a great deal of thought to that question. There you go. That's equivocating. It's equivocating. It's filler. It's just giving me a chance to come up with an answer. That's okay. That's perfectly acceptable in English. Once in a while, if you say this in every single reply at a job interview, you're never going to get the job. If you say this in an IELTS test every single question, you're not going to do that well. Once in a while, it's okay. So I put that in the good category because it's good to do once in a while when you need it in your bag of English language tricks. That's all right. Better. Now, let's look at these last two. Paraphrasing is great. Paraphrasing is great because it brings clarity. We use clarification back and forth in English speech constantly. It's quite normal. Frankly, it's expected in customer service type dialogues. Paraphrasing is when you say back, for example, a question, and you say it back in a similar way. For example, okay. We're not really going in any kind of order. I'm all over the place today. Shell, let me ask you a question. Are there pollution problems in the Philippines? How could you?
My country.
How could you?
How could
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
answer? All right. In my country, there are issues about pollutants, mainly in Manila. So,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm
my
going to stop
concern.
you right there. So that's good. All right. You got it, Shell. You got it. All right. That's paraphrasing. Very good. She's just saying back the question in a sentence to introduce what she's going to say, to give her opinion or to make her point. But if you don't know exactly what you're going to say, then it also helps you to sort of prepare or to start thinking about how you're going to answer the question. Very simple, all right? Are there pollution problems in your country? Well, to tell you the truth, there are actually quite a few very serious pollution problems which have become prevalent in my country in recent years. Well, okay. Saying that sentence actually organizes my speech. It introduces what I'm going to say, and it gives me about 8 seconds of extra time to think about what I'm going to say. Hopefully, also, by using paraphrasing, this will start to spark ideas in my mind so I can start to think linearly. I can start to think in a line. Okay, many problems. What is one? While I'm talking, I'll start to think of the individual problems. For example, okay, and okay, Julio, excellent point. You're absolutely correct. Paraphrasing and learning to paraphrase if you just start doing it, it does take a lot of mental energy, and you have to think about how to do it. But I'll tell you something, the more you practice it, it becomes mindlessly easy. You do it instantly without thinking. It's one of those, you have to practice it. Okay, your mother asks you, so how do you like the chicken I prepared? I think this is probably one of the best chickens that I've ever eaten in my entire life. Well, this is a very interesting chicken dish you've prepared. Okay, whatever. If you start doing it, you'll find that it becomes easier and easier until it becomes really you don't think at all if you practice it enough. You're right. When you first start doing it, it is a bit of a challenge to start to do this. But it is a great way to speak because it does organize your speech. It helps you organize your speech.
I have a question,
Hopefully,
teacher.
yeah.
If you ask me about the chicken, for example, and I say like, what do I think about the chicken? That's interesting. Is that paraphrasing or repetition?
uh, well, that's kind of a combination of paraphrasing and equivocating, to tell you the truth. It's kind of both. When you say the question back, okay, that's equivocating pretty much. Okay, what do you think about the chicken? Well, what do I think about the chicken? Well, that's interesting. That's basically equivocating. All right, and again, acceptable, but not every sentence. That would be ridiculous. Another great way, really great way, if you really need much more time to start thinking about what you want to say, is to do backstory or background. This is great especially for IELTS, not really for TOEFL, because TOEFL everything's timed and you don't have time for backstory, which is unfortunate. IELTS, on the other hand, you do. Or talking to your boss in a meeting, you do have time for backstory, and it actually may help your presentation. In a job interview, you do. You can do this. Backstory is very similar to paraphrasing. If my boss asks me, what do I think about the new project? Well, sir, if you remember last year, around the same time of the year, we introduced product ABC. If you'll recall, product ABC was at first met with some resistance by the buying public. It really didn't take off. But once the holiday season started and Christmas sales picked up, I think immediately following Black Friday, we saw ABC sales shoot through the roof. I'm totally not talking about the new product. Not at all. I'm telling the background. I'm telling about a similar product. I'm telling about the development of the product. I'm telling about history of other products in other companies. Whatever. All of those things. Any of those things. In order to get to what my opinion is about the new product. Maybe I'm totally not thinking about the new product and my boss has caught me on the back foot. He's caught me not really prepared to answer that question. Similar thing can happen in a job interview. Very similar thing can happen in an IELTS exam. You're surprised by a question. Using backstory is great. It's set up and it's giving background and it's actually helping to clarify your answer whenever you do get to it. The other idea behind giving backstory is hopefully you'll say things which will spark linear thinking. What is linear thinking? And we're going to maybe practice this a little bit. Do a little exercise. What is linear thinking? Does anybody know? Open question for the class.
Yeah, it's the kind of thinking that involves like a set of ideas that develops in a certain way. So if we have a backstory that describes a bad event, the subject will eventually develop to suggest not to use this product. If we are talking about a bad product, about a bad history with a previous product that were produced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We will obviously, our opinion obviously will be that we shouldn't produce the same kind of product in the current time. So
okay. Right. Logical thinking in a line, in a logical progression of ideas. Right. Linear thinking can also be just simple. You're talking. Your example is good, and hopefully that's what we end up with. Exactly, with a logical progression of ideas. That is the idea. That's where you want to go. Linear thinking can go off topic as well. It's just one idea combined with the next idea, combined with the next, combined with the next. Hopefully, if you realize what the original question or the point of departure of your thinking is, you can bring it back to that, which is what you're talking about. You start with a bad product, you talk about it, the history, you talk about the development of the new product, you talk about different things, and hopefully you'll come back to that. Step-by-step progression. All right. Where a response to a step must be elicited before another step is taken. True or not true? In a normal conversation in day-to-day life, you would hope, okay, absolutely, you would hope to create a dialogue in which you would create this step-by-step progression in a dialogue. But of course, there are times when you're speaking, like in a job interview or an IELTS exam, you can do linear thinking, a logical progression of ideas. In fact, TOEFL, this is specifically in TOEFL and IELTS scoring rubrics, actually. Quite specifically, this is graded. This is part of your grade. Can you do this?
It's to sound cohesion and cohesive.
Cohesive is the key word there. That is exactly the word that they use in these tests, as a matter of fact. Exactly. Precisely correct. All right, to sound cohesive. Now, the idea sometimes behind using paraphrasing or background is to spark your brainstorming, but hopefully, because you're giving your brain somewhere to start with and a direction, hopefully that will create linear thinking, not just bubble thinking where you're thinking, you've got 1,000 thoughts at once, you don't know what to say. Hopefully, it sets you on a path. So you have a step-by-step progression. That's also part of the concept of why you're doing this. to make you sound clearer as well. Cohesive. Very good. Let's try a little silly exercise in linear thinking. Okay. We're gonna make a linear thought line, but we're gonna do a little something called word association. Some of you may have heard of this. Word association. I'm gonna go right around the class. Heidi was here first. I'm gonna go quickly. Heidi, Shell, Julio, Moham, Luis. We're gonna go quickly. I'm gonna say a word. Heidi's gonna say a word. Shell is gonna say a word that she associates with Heidi's word. Julio's going to say a word associated with Shell's word. Then we're going to try to do something with it afterwards, but I'm not going to tell you what. Okay. You guys ready? Heidi? Ocean.
Ocean.
Yep. What word do you think of? Quickly.
What I need to say?
The first word that comes into your mind when you hear the word ocean. Could be any or anything.
Verb or noun?
I don't care. Any word at all.
Okay, sky.
Okay, great. Shell, sky.
Airplane.
What?
Airplane.
Airplane. I thought you said verbling. What? Sky verb? Okay. Sorry. Julio, airplane.
Crash.
Ooh. Excellent. Moham. Crash.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. That's interesting. Okay. Luis, Coca-Cola.
Glass.
Glass. All right. There we go. Okay. Now, let's try making sentences with each of your words. Okay. All right, I'll start. Last week, I went to the ocean. Okay, Heidi, using the word sky, continue.
Lying down on the beach and looking up the sky.
Say again, I ran down the beach.
Laying down on the beach.
Oh, I lay down on the beach, okay.
And looking up the sky.
And of course, this is past tense. I have went. I started with went. So to maintain the continuity of our verb tense, I lay down on the beach and looked up at the sky. Shell, airplane.
Then I remembered the news about another missing airplane.
I remembered. Okay. Crash. Julio.
I don't want to die in an airplane crash.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Even the co-location of airplane and crash together. Okay. Now, good luck, Moheim. Coca-Cola.
I love drinking Coca-Cola while watching news.
Okay. All right. That's fine. It helps me illustrate something. While watching the news, by the way. Okay, and finally, glass. Luis.
Okay. I filled the glass with Coca-Cola.
Okay, what happened here? We were trying to do linear thinking, all right, as a group. Of course, as a group, it gets confused because you start playing Chinese telephone and somebody goes horribly astray. Coca-Cola, okay. When you hear, okay. But for the most part, all right, this is the idea of linear thinking. Last week I went to the ocean, I lay down on the beach, I looked up at the sky. I remembered the news about another missing airplane. Okay, maybe something here like that caused me to remember the news about another missing airplane. You know, I really don't want to die in an airplane crash. Now we have a kind of a break. Why? Because we had a break in linear thinking here. Crash Coca-Cola. Mulham, how do you associate Coca-Cola with a crash? I just
Well,
have to
that's
ask.
easy. No, that's easy because there's a brand that's called Crush, which is a drink. It's this one, Crush.
Oh,
It's like an orange drink.
it's an
It
orange.
has also. No, it's not just orange. Just I'll send you the link. 1 second.
Okay. Crush? They call it crash? I know crush. What's that? Crush. Ah. Do you mean crush? No, crash. No, crush. It's very interesting. Now I get it.
It's Crush. It's Crush. Yeah.
It is crashed. Well, this is so weird. This is crash? Crush. Oh, yeah.
It's
Okay.
Crush. Yeah. With you, Crush.
Crush. Okay. Now I get it. Oh, that probably, if I had spelled it right instead of, okay. No. Okay, this is crash with an A. Crush with, oh, now I understand. Oh, slight misunderstanding. Slight misunderstanding in our English caused us to lose our linear line of thought. That's actually quite interesting how that happened. All right. Okay. And then we're back into a linear line of thought. Okay. That's what happened. All right. Well, there's where.
The other option would be Crush the video game. So it was only this or that. And those are the two things that came to my mind when I
Okay.
heard about a Crush. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. But for the most part, we can see that our linear thinking is pretty logical until we got into a misunderstanding with a spelling error or whatever. Okay. Even that probably could have been made more, more of a linear thought had we not had the misunderstanding. Okay, I just noticed that I am once again over time trying to do this exercise. I'm trying. It's my New Year's resolution to end classes on time, which I never do. So I have to say goodbye because I have another class coming right up. All right, bye for now. Thank you
Take
very
care,
much.
Bye.
take it easy.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
you got some good tips.
Yes.